Hi, we're here. Where are we today, Emily?
We're at the BBC Radio Solent studios.
And who are we with?
I don't know who it's Sasha Twining.
Hi. Yes, they've been my Ask the Experts today, talking about outdoor weddings and how to plan for a wedding in this rather miserable day in January. Enjoy.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.
We're going to talk about outdoor weddings, and I have promised we'll talk about, I was going to say normal weddings, but indoor weddings as well. Emily and Alan Braithwaite, welcome back.
Hello, thank you for having us back.
Now, you two run a blog,
We do.
The Outside Bride. Now, you were in the studio. This is the first time you've been our expert guests.
Yes.
So, but you were here because we were talking about the changes to legislation
Yeah, that's right.
in how we can now get married or you can
Well,
get married.
it's still being negotiated at the moment, but last time we were here it was when the budget change was coming in and they were going to be discussing how we can get a bit more flexibility on where and when we can get married.
Well, you've really got questions about what the law is, so I tell you what,
Okay.
we won't do that now. We will come on to that, but just a little bit about you before we sort of open lines and start getting questions to you both. So, the blog is a result of what?
Right.
Well, yeah, go on, you can.
So obviously we're a husband and wife team, which is always great. Alan and I have been working together on off for about 7 years now on a separate business, which is a glamping and outdoor business. And that very quickly spiralled into working a lot more in sort of outdoor weddings, mainly as our bread and butter. We were doing the infrastructure, which then posed lots of questions about how can we do this? What can you do this? Can you source it? And very, very swiftly we started becoming this kind of more of a specialist in everything you could possibly need to do in an outdoor wedding. So we launched the Outside Bride a year ago.
It was a year ago,
this
January.
week, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah, actually it was.
Which is it's very still very new, but it's been a really good platform for people just to go to for inspiration, for tips, like we said about the legal side of things. People don't know. It's a one-stop shop for everything you would need to know about an outdoor wedding, and we have a plethora of suppliers come and get involved with us. We do weekly Ask an Experts on our own channels as well, and it's just been a really, really cool, exciting year for us.
It is. I mean, the outdoor weddings are growing. I mean, it's whether it's just exposure or actual growth, I'm undecided, but we think it's growing. And we think it comes off the back of the staycation and all of that, and people thought, well, actually, this country's quite nice. Then, the plus side of global warming, if there is one.
You'd be hard pushed to find one.
Yeah,
but...
is we had a pretty good summer last
we
year,
did,
yeah.
and we hope we're going to have a pretty good summer this year. And I think people are excited about that. They're enjoying the British countryside, and they want to be. They like that whole nature bit. That's popular, and
Not only that, we have people these days don't want to be told what time to sit down, where to go, what kind of your venue is very specific in what they're going to give you, very prescriptive.
What, if it's a hotel or
it's a
something
hotel,
like that? Yeah.
Whereas outdoor weddings are very much more
what do we say?
relaxed.
What you want, where you want, how you want.
want to do.
Okay, so there's masses and masses that we
So
can
much,
talk about.
so much.
And you two, and I remember from last time, you are an absolute mine of information on so many different areas to do with getting married, and so many different bits of ideas and advice and just chat. So, if you are planning a wedding, and there's a lot of planning that goes on in these months for the wedding season, as it were, we thought perfect time to have Emily and Alan in the studio to, well, just have a chat, to answer queries, to point you in a certain direction, or just brainstorm a few ideas. So this is the phone number, 0808 100 3800, 0808 100 3800. It's a free number. Just pick up the phone, give us a call. Or you can text us, 81333. Start your text with the word Solent. That's 81333. Start your text with the word Solent. If you actually want to drop me an email address, by the way, anytime you like, sasha@bbc.co.uk. So I expect lots of wedding chat, lots of wedding advice, maybe a few funny stories, and possibly quite a few questions along the lines of, it's very expensive, can you please help? Yeah, indeed. So that's the number, that's the way of getting in touch. Emily and Alan are here. Let's talk weddings. Emily and Alan in the studio, talking weddings, talking specifically about getting married outside. They're founders of the Outside Bride blog. They are the people to go to about weddings. And the reason we are doing it this week this is the week to start planning, really, isn't it?
Yes. We were just talking a moment ago. There's always that makes us smile. Every Boxing Day, there's a huge spike on website hits, on traffic to all of our social media, where there's been a Christmas Day proposal. Then they're sat there on Boxing Day recovering from Christmas Day and the build-up.
Yeah.
You know, the internet searches go up, and we see it. And
what can we do today?
What can we do today? Let's look at weddings. I'm excited. I'm planning. And then we hit January, and that's it. It's time to... Well, the other thing about Christmas, I guess, is if you want a short engagement, then it's going to be this summer. You know, so generally we see sort of 6 to 9 months or 18 months. Yeah. So everyone who's planning that, let's get married ASAP, that's it. They want to get married this summer. They're going to be looking at June, July, August, September to get it sorted and to celebrate their amazing special day.
So if you, I mean, obviously we are concentrating on outside weddings, but if you wanted to book a venue, are you really always looking at 18 months to plan it, do you think?
In this day and age,
Yeah.
yes. I do. If you are very relaxed about what you want and you're not particularly fussed about one particular hotel or venue that you're really, really sort of hankering for, then yes, feel free to be flexible. But if you've got one in mind, 18 months to 2 years, some of the waiting lists are absolutely gigantic, which is why outdoor weddings are so great, because you can have that flexibility of finding a space, you know, a grassy space, a field, and making it yourself. But if you're getting engaged and you're wanting X venue, I would be getting there as soon as possible. That would be the first thing you book, in my opinion.
Okay. Let's get the legal stuff out of the way, which was actually how we came across you two anyway, because we were talking about the legal stuff of getting married outdoors. So what is the law at the moment?
Right. So at present, if you want to legally get married in UK or Wales, you need to be married in a licensed venue or a registry office. You cannot legally get married outside. You can have a ceremony outside, but you'd have to do that legal part beforehand, after, or on the same day. Okay. When we spoke to you a couple of months back, the budget happened, and we were discussing the fact that they are looking to now be a bit more sympathetic to that, and to loosen the reins a little bit, so you can get married anywhere you like, in a field, a beach, a woodland, anywhere you like. As at present, it hasn't yet changed. Has it? It's gone to the law
they
commission.
said they've sent it to the Law Commission for review, and then that's it. You know, we don't know how long that's going to take. We haven't heard anything else out the back of that. The good thing about having the separation, though, is that at the moment you can go and get your marriage, your licence, and done all that separately. You can get a celebrant or a family friend or anything to conduct the service that you want. You know, you can have it really, really personalised in that sort of outdoor setting. But currently, you must get legally married separately to that as well. So you have 2 services.
Go on.
Yeah. I mean, they can be done at the same venue. So it sounds more complicated than it is. It's just that you can't get legally married standing in a field, you know, with Bob your uncle going, say I do. That's not. You get someone like a celebrant or someone else, or your friend who can do a ceremony in a field. But there are plenty of venues with that fixed building where you can get legally married.
It's a roof, so basically it's a gazebo or a doorway, pagoda.
Yes, cricket pavilion. We know one that has. And so there are loads of places where you can do it. Or there might be a hotel or a stately manor that has a room that's licensed, and then you can get married on their lawn with a marquee teepee or, you know, geodesic dome. Yeah. So that's
Hang on, what was that last thing you just said?
Geodesic domes. We love this story.
Favourite,
it is my favourite. So kind of beginning of last season, this company appeared out of, what are they called? Buyer Design, something like that. And it turns out these guys were carpenters and down in Cornwall or something like that. And they thought, why don't we build a dome and put PVC on the outside with windows?
A bit like the Eden Project.
A bit like the Eden Project.
Okay,
and for me, that's that Cornwall link thing there, whatever that is. And then all of a sudden, these have spread all across the UK. We've seen them at weddings. We've seen them all over social media.
How big is this thing?
Huge. We're talking 120 people, 2 domes connected.
It's a cross between Eden Project and the Crystal Maze, in my opinion.
And there's a post on our blog all about them. So if you go on the Outside Bride and search on domes, you'll find them. And they're amazing. They are, and for us, that was that definite next trend coming through. Yeah. You know, we'd gone from traditional marquees to clear span to teepees, and they're all still. Everything's exciting when it's made to look amazing. But these domes, we'd not seen them before.
He gets very
I do. Well, I'm the kind of operationally guy. You know, in our bell tent business, that's what I do, and Emily's more the kind of theming and all of that. So I get excited by a dome.
So the dome, right? Yeah. You would sort of. It's not a fixed thing that is always going to be in the same field. So this is something that you would then hire in.
Yes.
How much does that cost?
It's how long's a piece of string, really. The benefit of all these mobile companies is that you can do anything you want in a field, but you know, with a price tag attached to it. Anything starts from £2,000 up to £10,000-12,000, depending on the size and scale of what you want to do.
I mean, you're probably looking. I'm going to give you a figure, a guesstimate, off, based on what we know. Yeah. It's probably going to be about £6,000-7,000 for them to bring these domes up.
But that includes nothing else.
Well, that would probably be flooring, tables, chairs, and everything else. Generally, a company like that will put in some infrastructure. It's not just the tent. They learned years ago that the kind of client's going to need more than that, so they will supply them. Or a TP. What did we look the other day? Sort of £2,500-3,000 per hat. Yeah. So if you have 3 hats on a TP, then they're £2,500-3,000 per hat.
Which sounds, I mean, the price that you're talking about for the dome. You say that is an approximation. Okay.
Yeah, I couldn't quite remember, but it'd be around that.
It sounds like it is a lot, but then when you look at, I mean, if you've got a friend with a field, okay, so your friend venue. Says there you go. Yeah. So if you're going to hire a venue like a hotel or something, it's
comparable a little bit. You look at, if you're going to a hotel, you're paying for that venue, but you've got everything there. An outdoor wedding, you are starting from scratch. You're building it from the ground up. You have to think about your toilets, your generators, your tents, your furniture, everything in between. But if you're looking at the two packages side by side, that might be comparable in your price. But it's doing your research and knowing what you want and how they look.
We've got totally sidetracked.
I know,
because you mentioned the domes. And
it's so exciting, and apologies for getting so excited about it.
No, we were talking about the legal side.
Right,
that was it. Yes.
So at the moment, you can't just rock up in a field with your Uncle Bob. As
that is subject to change, hopefully.
But that's the thing that's subject to change. So if you are planning a wedding now, 18 months down the line, I'm guessing, and you want that sort of rocking up in a field with Uncle Bob, I'm guessing that actually you've still got to have, just in case the law hasn't changed, you've got to make sure.
Get it booked in, ultimately. If it doesn't happen and then the law changes and ultimately that's something you can cancel later on down the line. But if you know that in 18 months' time you want to get married, I would be talking to a registrar, getting that booked in, so that if it doesn't happen, at least you have that.
It is worth saying the legal parts for a lot is a mere formality. That's they're not necessarily religious. They just want that legally binding marriage. So it's just something to do. It doesn't have to be on the same day. It could be years apart. They could go, let's go and do that tomorrow if they can get it booked in. But we're having our wedding celebration next year.
Well, it's just the party, isn't it?
That's it. And that's one way of looking at it. You've got a legal bit and a party. They don't have to be on the same day.
We did have a couple once who did that. They wanted to have their marriage certificate with the wedding date on the same day, so they did it a year apart. They had that set
to the day
to themselves, and then a year later, no one else knew they'd already done it, and then they had the service they wanted a year later down the line.
Did they tell people?
No, they kept it secret. So they literally got married in September, and then the following September they had their wedding.
Emily, you mentioned England and Wales when you first started talking. Does that mean it's different in Scotland?
Scotland already has a much sort of looser wedding structure. You can get married wherever you like in Scotland at the moment. That's what we're trying to aspire to get to with England and Wales.
And I'm sorry, it's going to sound a really stupid question, but you haven't got to be Scottish for that to be applied to you. You just have to be in Scotland. Yeah. Okay, so if you want to do this and you are happy for it to have a Highland type wedding, you're fine anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dragging all your family from Southampton up to Inverness,
Well, over on the ferry from the Isle of Wight.
Well, there's an adventure for it as well.
Well, I mean, you started off by saying the difference, obviously, sort of people who maybe have been planning to go abroad to get married because they wanted the outdoor feel, which you do typically get when you look at weddings abroad.
Greece and Italy,
actually, you're going to go the same sort of distance anyway.
Yeah, that is true.
Okay, phone number 0808 100 3800. You can text me 81333. Start your text with the word Solent. 81333. Start your text with the word Solent. Time to call. We're going to talk next about the trends for the year. When I got married, I did fall into the wedding magazine trap of where you think, do I have to be on trend with this? I wasn't. I soon got out of that trap. Yes, I did redeem myself on that one. But what the trends are, we can have a laugh about that and talk about it in a serious way as well. We're going to talk about eco-friendly weddings as well. I bet you're seeing more of those or more people aspiring to them. Yes. Okay. And we can talk about if you do want to do the rock up in an empty field, what actually do you need to consider? 0808 100 3800. If, like Alan says, you did get married over Christmas, give us a call. Let's have the first chat. In the studio this afternoon, Alan and Emily from the Outdoor Bride blog. We are talking, yes, outdoor weddings, the trends, the things that are that people have to think of. Not saying that you have to follow trends in weddings.
No, not at all.
Not at all.
Just a quick side story.
Yeah.
I got married in a yellow suit. That certainly was not following a trend.
And it will never be a trend.
Did you know about the yellow suit?
Unfortunately, I did. It was the
No
only
one else knew,
only prerequisite was that to get married, he had to wear a yellow suit. He was never getting married unless he wore the suit. So I had to.
Was it a nice suit?
Yes.
Was it a nice
come
suit?
on.
Subjective, isn't it, that word?
No,
Nice.
I saw some cousins I hadn't seen for a while at the weekend, and they brought up our wedding, and they said, you managed to pull that suit off, Alan. So I'm taking that.
Emily?
No, it was a very nice suit. It was lovely. Yes, great.
Do you often get prospective couples coming to you and you think, actually, do you know what? You are, although it seems like a great idea at the time, you've got to somehow manage this so that actually when you look back, it's actually is something that, you know, you were pleased about. Oh, look on Alan's face. It's like, you telling me I regret the suit?
No.
No,
I have
doesn't
no
regret this.
regrets about the suit. I quite like... I like to be a little bit different, and when you look back at the photos, if it makes you smile, it's not like looking back on 70s flares and haircuts. It's very different, I think, to that.
Know.
Well, okay, we'll wait until our kids are older and they look back. Dad.
Right, you've just mentioned children. Right, do you want to talk about, we've got a question on eco-friendly weddings and a question on children at weddings. Which one do you want to do first?
Start with the kids at weddings. That's always a fun conversation.
Okay, this one who hasn't left her name. We're getting married in 3 months. We've left the invitations with saying at the bottom that we would prefer in the nicest possible way that our wedding was child-free, but understand if children have to be brought. How would you deal with this? And what is the best thing for us to do? Because we feel now that we do have some relatives who are bringing young children.
It's a really, really good one because it's a conversation we have week in, week out with our brides separately. It's a really difficult one because you want to be a crowd pleaser. You want to make sure that everyone's happy, but ultimately it is your day. So you do whatever you want to do. If you want a child-free wedding, we had a child-free wedding, and actually it was the right thing for us because for a lot of people, you don't want to have, you're having your service, which is really important to you, and you have a crying baby in the background or children running up and down the aisles. You don't necessarily want that. Again, in the party sort of side of it, you may want all your friends around just to be able to relax and have a great time, and children may, in your opinion, get in the way. If you don't want that, that's absolutely fine. Write it nice on your email and on your invitations. I've seen a lot of limericks, people putting, we want you to relax and enjoy. I think the only one, in my opinion, that you may not get away with is babes in arms. Obviously, if you've got very, very small babies and you want those adults to be able to come, you may have to get away with having babies at the wedding. But really, do what you want to do and don't be led by other people.
But it is so difficult because if the wedding is away from home and therefore you have to stay away, how do you deal with that with a babysitter? And let's just say other relatives have also been invited, so you haven't necessarily got a night with nanny and granddad or something.
We've been to weddings where they've had to bring a member of the other side of the family to come along and take them after the sort of the speeches. They took them away for the evening, didn't they?
Yeah.
It is really, really tricky. But then you can look at things like children's entertainers. We've been to weddings where you've had to deal with having to have children that you didn't necessarily want to have there, but they've brought in a kids entertainer or a nanny that have come in literally to take them into a separate room where they've looked after them for
we've
the
done
day.
children's play tents at weddings and things like that, where the children not pushed out the way. But I'm with Emily. I mean, we've got children. We've said that, but I still wouldn't want my child screaming, crying at someone else's wedding. I don't think that's fair. It's their most special day of their lives. Hopefully, only once. We discuss money loosely. We know they're going to have spent a fortune on it. I wouldn't want my child crying at their wedding. We would look to find a babysitter, or there's that creche world.
I would be prepared there may be some sort of backlash from... There's always going to be that guest who wants their child to be there, and they may be upset by it. But just be prepared to explain why you don't want them there, what it is, what the main reason for you not having children there, and just go with what you want ultimately.
You mentioned children's play tents and also like a creche or something. So are there companies that will offer services that you could bring in.
There's a company we saw that recently. Well, they're called Wedding Creches, aren't they? And they especially go to weddings for that exact purpose, to go along to weddings and be that nanny for the day.
I mean, there is that kind of making it fun for the children.
Yeah.
So if you want to go down that path, but you get a children's play tent, you get a creche facility in. The children could even have their own sleepover. So at a reasonable time, someone takes them away, reads them a story. What I don't know. Sets a film up, tents. There's loads of different ways. If you can't get around children being at your wedding, then the next question is, what can you do to make it a little bit, I want to say easy, I can't think of relaxing for everyone involved. And there are ways, they say, creches, play tents, cinema tents. I'm trying to think. Animals, petting zoos.
We've been to a petting zoo, haven't we?
A petting zoo.
They brought in petting zoos to the mobile petting zoos.
I'm sorry, but that's getting slightly ridiculous.
Well, we were at a trade show a couple of months back. I mean, we've seen llamas at weddings, but there were mobile camels. They were bringing camels to weddings. I've never seen anything quite like it.
I haven't seen that on any of the trend lists, but we're calling it.
There's a whole ethical thing there about whether you should be having animals at these kind of things. But I looked at it going, wow, that I wasn't expecting that trend for this year. But people, if there's money there, people will spend it, and if there's a product there, they will buy it.
And ultimately, like I say, that is one way of keeping the children entertained at your wedding. So it's a bit more relaxed for everyone.
Quick point about the money. This is a text that a lot of people are going to agree with. This person says, "I've always thought that the amount of money people waste on what turns out to be just a very expensive meal for family and friends and a dress would be better spent on a deposit for a house rather than just waste it on a party."
Do you know what? That is a very valid point if that's what you want to do. But ultimately, it's your day and your money. And if you want to have a big party and spend that money, then fair play, off you go.
Don't feel you have to.
No, absolutely.
I think we mentioned it last time around. There's a bride in our group, the Outside Bride, who basically, she had a really long engagement, many years. She's made everything. And she got her dress from Pre-Loved. It was like 30. Actually, a good friend of ours got her gorgeous dress from Pre-Loved for £35.
This is a second-hand wedding.
Yes. And there's loads of. I mean, I know Oxfam used to do a Pre-Loved shop specifically, and I'm sure, what was her name? Is it Becca on the Hannah? No, it doesn't matter. And I think her budget was like £1,500, and it was still in a field how she wanted.
Didn't she?
She foraged and made all her table centres, and went all rustic and pallets and everything.
What I would say though is, regardless if you have a £1,000 budget or a £30,000 budget, which is the national average, £30,000 is now the national average for a wedding.
And that's the average.
Yeah, when you think of a nice big chunky house deposit, that is quite a big average. But what I would say is, there's such a stigma with money, though. I think if you want to have a budget wedding, or you have less of a budget, then absolutely fine. You go for a £1,500 wedding. You can do that, and you can have a jolly good knees up with that. But that people also get shamed for having the £30,000 wedding. And I think if you want to spend that money, and you have the money, and you want to have the Pinterest splurge of a wedding, then absolutely you should be able to do so too. It's different choices.
Loads of questions for you. Olivia is in Southsea. She says, "I want to get married abroad, but I've only just got engaged." Olivia, congratulations. And she says, "I haven't looked into it fully. I found a gorgeous venue when I was on holiday in Croatia last year." I love the fact that when she was on holiday last year, even though she wasn't engaged, she'd already found something. But she says, "Where do I start? Can you legally get married abroad?"
Yes, you can legally get married abroad. Obviously, that depends on where you get married and what country you go to. We're not experts on every country's legal procedures. However, there are destination wedding planners across this country who would be able to better signpost you. So Google that, and they will happily help you out with that.
This is an interesting question from Darren, who's in Winchester. Darren says, "I live in a Victorian manor house that's been split into flats. It has beautiful grounds, and I'm considering pitching the idea to the other people that live here of using it for weddings. I think it could be a good earner for us." You've got to get everyone on board, haven't you?
Yeah.
And the neighbours.
Yeah. What sort of things do I need to think of, and how much could we expect to make? Right. Okay. That is a whole other programme in itself.
Indeed.
But just off the top of your head.
First one I would say is planning, kind of licensing. You either need to get a complete change of planning for your garden to be able to hold events, Or what is it? 28 days.
You can have a temporary events. So under 28 days, if you're having marquees and things on your gun, you can have without having planning permission changes.
So you can do it for a month in the summer.
Yeah, just to test it would be a good start for that. Or go and speak to your local council to see what the planning requirements would be for that. But mainly things to look at. Obviously, Alan just said noise and neighbours, making sure you're not going to be interrupting anyone. Looking at your access points, what the ground's like. If it's a Victorian manor house, obviously there might be archaeology and things like that you might have to consider if you'll be pegging big stakes in the ground for marquees, so check what's in the grounds. I think it's a brilliant idea. So many people are using their gardens now for these things, and obviously being local, that's amazing. I would say
size capacity,
how many guests you can deal with, how many cars you can deal with, because if you have 50 guests, you might have 25 cars. If you have 150 guests, it's going to get quite sizable. And then also, in terms of pricing, again, depends on the size and scale of your garden. But
what you're going to offer.
Go on.
We generally found like a piece of grass with nothing. So I mean that as loose as that sounds, field. It starts at about £1,000 pretty much. If someone knows what they're doing about weddings, then you might find a farmer doing it cheaper or a neighbour who's happy for it. But if you find someone who says, "Can I use your piece of grass?" it seems to start at around £1,000, and then it's all infrastructure on top of that. I mean, you've got power, toilets, shelter, food, waste, getting rid of all the rubbish. That's a huge one. A lot of people having outdoor weddings don't quite factor in is on Sunday, I've got to take all this down and clear it all away again. That's quite a big one. Another one. Was it Darren? Was it another one?
Darren,
Darren. My thing about is that turnaround time. Who's going to event manage it? Who's going to wedding manage it? Because they're going to need someone in their building who shows them on site, does the site tours, does the contract negotiations with them. Everything. It's. I think it's a little bit bigger than just saying I think I'm going to hold a wedding in my back garden, but if done right, could be very rewarding. And I don't just mean financially, for everyone involved, for the couples using it, for the people who live in the house together, just to be part of such exciting times.
I tell you what would work really well for them if there was someone in that house, in one of those flats, that wanted to get married anyway and just see what
test
it would
the
be
water
like.
with it.
Yeah, and then they'd have photos for marketing as well, and it'd be brilliant.
Right, a question. Thank you. That's just reminded me. And let me just click into my email. An email question about photos. How do you find the perfect wedding photographer that you can actually trust? It's in capitals, and "you can trust" has been underlined.
Has there been something?
I don't know that many untrustworthy ones.
Well, you do hear like some nightmares and things going in the past, but I think a photographer, again, is a very subjective thing. It very much comes down to the style and budget as well, for them, because they can be ranging from £500 up to £2,000, but obviously depends on what you're getting as part of your package. And the first thing I would always say is go and see that photographer. So if you know there are lots of wedding fairs coming up, go and see them in the flesh, see their work in the flesh, get to chat to them. You do get a report. Ultimately, your wedding photographer is going to be there on your day, capturing your special event, and you really want to get that relationship built with them, because if you have some quite, cold and quite standoffish, you may not feel relaxed on your day, and you want to get the best out of your photos. So go and see them in person. Chat through what you want, what your style is. If you're going for more formal, like more sort of staged photos, fantastic. If you want more reportage kind of style.
Do you still get the actual stage one?
So we nearly fell for this trap. We said, no, we don't want any of that malarkey. And our photographer at the time said, trust me, you do. And actually, we only had a few staged ones, and they're the ones we actually now, what were we, 6 years? They're the ones we actually wish we had a few more of.
They're the ones you show your great auntie Flo and your grandparents and stuff. They like to see that family sort of formal setup. And there are photographers who do lots more of that, and more who'll be more, you won't even know they're in the room. They're more sort of flexible and just hiding on the corners. It's really up to what your style is, really.
One thing that's very popular, and we always say, the thing about a photographer is, in 5, 6, 10 years' time, you're not going to be looking at your table plan, what table covers you had, what tent type you had. You are going to be looking at your pictures. So actually, making sure you spend the right amount of money for you on your photographer is probably one of the most important things.
We're really nearly out of time, but the one that I know that you both want to talk about as well, and it's a question, we've had a couple of questions on this one, and that's eco-friendly weddings, and it's cutting down on plastic, which I imagine is going to be huge this year. It's already, it has been for a while, becoming more and more important. But off the top of your head, and I think this will cover most of the questions that we've got, what are the big things to think about if that's the way you want to go?
We talk about this so often with eco-friendly weddings, don't we? Because also, as you've said, it's such a big thing this year. So plastic waste, it's very tricky with plastic waste in terms of glassware. When you're in a field and you may have an agricultural field, having glass in the field, it's making choices that will be sustainable and making sure that things like your plates and your cutlery, there are companies that are producing like palm leaf bamboo plates rather than plastic plates or polystyrene plates. There are many other things you can consider with eco weddings. So sourcing your dress, going with second-hand pre-loved dresses and things, looking at your catering choices. Can you go for locally produced, sourced ingredients or locally sourced caterers coming sort of nearby rather than going further afield? Things like transport. If you have 150 guests, that's obviously a lot of cars. Can you look at making changes to your transport issues where you might get a bus or tractor and trailer, so you're not having that many, your carbon footprint is much more reduced. So really just thinking about what you're creating. If you're doing invites, do you need to have paper invites, or could you do a email or a website kind of creation?
A video, yeah.
Thinking carefully about how much waste you're producing, and then seeing if you can change it a little bit.
There's a few specifics, aren't there? I mean, we know a lot of bar companies now have moved to paper straws.
Yeah.
We know some are even vegan straws, because I didn't know this. Paper straws have beeswax on them, and then for vegans, that's no good.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got wooden cutlery. I mean, if we go in traditional sit-down meal, then if you're using traditional crockery that's going to go away and wash,
anyway,
then that's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
We're talking about lowering plastic, we're talking about damage in the fields, waste in the fields, if that happens.
We've seen a lot of weddings where they have like the kiln jar cups and stuff now, where they make that their wedding favour.
Yes,
they put their name on it, and they're responsible for that one glass throughout the day, so they can go and refill at the bar themselves rather than having lots. That's a really clever way of doing it. That way they're a bit more responsible, because they're not going to put their drink down and waste another drink. They're not going to throw it across the field and lose that glass.
Oh, I like that idea.
Yeah, I like that. We saw that at a fantastic wedding, didn't we? And that was their wedding favour.
You get your glass when you arrive,
and then you take it home,
and you are responsible for it, and no more wasted drinks because you can't find where your gin and tonic has gone, or whatever it might be. We're out of time. That's been fascinating. So much stuff. So much stuff.
I'm sitting here, I've got way more.
I know, I can tell. Alan and Emily, as always, brilliant. We'll get you back later in the year, I am sure. In the meantime, their blog is The Outside Bride. Thank you both very much.
Absolute
much
pleasure.
appreciated.
Thanks for having
Thank you.
us.